Good morning. I can't tell you how excited I am. I was listening to Gretchen Carlson this morning, and she was talking about, how did she say it? She wanted to honor her younger self. And so it made me think about who I was before I got here. And I think a lot of what happens when we're in this process of becoming the most successful version of ourselves is we sometimes forget why we started in the first place. Do you ever have that issue where you have to say, how did I get here in the first place? And I'm thinking back to when I was a little girl. This is back in Charleston, South Carolina. And I remembered why I used to play. And if you think about it, I think that our why is in its purest form back in childhood. When I think about it, when I was little, I would play Mozart. Because it made me feel good. It made me feel so light and excited. And I also got a kick out of how the audience would tell me they felt. Like I would play things like, and people would start crying. And I thought, oh, that's amazing. I felt like I had kind of like a superpower. And I started to wonder, what else could I do to me and the audience at the same time? So I'd play things like Beethoven. And Chopin. Because it was so passionate. Was my original why. And I would sit and play for hours. Nobody had to make me practice. Any of you have kids that you got to make them practice? Nobody had to make me practice. I remember when we moved to our first home, our first big home as a family, my parents made the den that was at the bottom of the house, they made that my bedroom so that we could put the piano in it. And I could just stay up as long as I wanted or get up as early as I wanted and play, and nobody had to make me play. And I never wondered why I was playing and who I was playing for. But I noticed that over time, if we're not careful, our why can start to shift. And so I'm going to talk to you today. You know, I love Simon Sinek, right? Because he helped us to find our why. But he didn't tell us we were going to have to remember the why, rediscover the why, prioritize the why, hold on to the why, and recapture the why. So I love to talk about remembering why we started in the first place and recapturing the passion that makes it so we don't feel like we're actually going to work. Does anybody want to feel like they're no longer going to work, but that you're showing up in the place you were always designed to be, that you're always in the right place at the right time? So for me, I think this is very similar to your career. You're going to notice we have lots of similarities between being a concert pianist and being in the medical profession. I'm sure you don't know yet, but I'm going to prove it to you. We're like so the same, it's not even funny. So one of the ways that we're the same, or actually maybe we're completely different in this, but in my industry, there is a ton of competition. Y'all don't have that, do y'all? Yeah, we have a ton of competition. And so when I was growing up, I already had in my head what I was going to sound like when I was going to grow up and be a classical concert pianist. And so over time, you know, you heard the Mozart and the Beethoven, there were certain pieces that I began to specialize in, just like you guys, right? So my daughter loves Doc McStuffins. I'm sure you get Doc McStuffins stories all the time. And what I love about Doc is I don't think her why has ever shifted. She just fixes those darn stuffed animals because she believes from the bottom of her heart that they deserve to be fixed. And she also believes that other kids are going to be really happy when she fixes them. That's her why, and that's it. She's not already wondering, now, where am I going to do my residency after we get done with this? But for me, that shift, if you're not careful, can start really early. When I was younger, I loved Mozart, I loved Beethoven, but there was something about romantic music. Rachmaninoff became my favorite. This was one of the guys that I would begin to specialize in as my why started to get a little more concrete. I want to perform for you a piece that is still one of my favorites. This is Rachmaninoff's C-sharp minor prelude. Thank you. That was good, right? Like really good. Like really, really good. Yes? I thought so too. Till I got to college. I got to college and everybody and their grandma was good. Did you guys experience that? Everybody was smart. Everybody made a perfect score in the SATs. Everybody went to all the best music schools. I realized that back in Charleston, I was kind of a big fish, you know, in a little pond. So when I went to school, I was a little bit blown away that everybody sounded like that, if not better. And then when I graduated, you know, I had listened to all of those lies. Do you know those lies? The ones that say practice makes perfect? Who came up with that? The other one, the cream always rises to the top. They never tell you what to do when everybody's cream. You see what I'm saying? So I get out and I read about everybody's cream. But in my industry, again, we probably don't have this in common, but in my industry, it's oversaturated. Everybody wants to be a classical concert pianist in the music industry. If you're in classical music, if you went to school, the only thing you want to do is be on a stage wearing designer gowns. Yes, we have it all planned out. We're going to play Bach, Beethoven, Rachmaninoff, Chopin, wash, rinse, repeat. That's it. We're going to come out, we're going to bow, we're going to play. And when I first got out of school, I adhered to that model. It's called the sit down and shut up model. You come out and you play, but the problem was in my industry, there was so much competition, and we had been competing since we were yay high. And so in my world, you had kind of these three demographics. On the left were these little child prodigies. They were absolutely freaking adorable. But they could play the same thing you just heard me play, but they were like 5 and 6 years old. I am not exaggerating. And then on this side, there were these old guys. I mean, these guys were like 150 years old. They didn't just play Mozart. They played golf with Mozart, you know? That's what you had. And then in the middle was me. African-American female classical concert pianist. Standing in the middle of all of that. I would go to these concerts, play my butt off, get up, and nobody in the audience even looked like me. It's like nobody told black people we had concerts going on. They didn't even come. Nobody was in my age group. Everybody was like 90 years old and older. Now, I didn't have a problem with that. I had gotten used to it. But there's something that happens when you're doing this thing you love and you look out and you don't see anybody who looks like you doing what you do. You don't really have a model for what is this going to look like for me. So as I was a child growing up, I didn't know that I could exist because I didn't see me. And so what happens is I did the only thing I knew how to do, compete. I'll just play faster and louder, and I'll be extra classical, whatever that meant. And I think if we're not careful, your why can so quickly shift first when you go to college, especially into the what. Your why goes from why to what. What is this talent going to get me? What is it going to do for me? And it starts to shift, and then you get on stage, and if you're not careful, that why will shift into who. Who else is trying to get on the same stage that I'm on?